Welcome to our Power of Moms retreat. We've got some wonderful women here. Have you had fun so far? Yes. We've been together the past couple of days discussing ways to become better mothers and better women and enjoy our lives. And we're coming now together to discuss Mind Organization for Moms, which is our program to help mothers develop the peace and getting things done based on the book Getting Things Done, written by David Allen. So we're so excited to be here. Everyone in the room has a packet, 12-page packet, which you'll have access to online also, that will enable you to go through each step of the process. And basically what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through how to build a machine, how to build an organizational machine, and then we're going to talk about ways to make it work for you. Now here are my promises. If you are willing to put in just a little bit of effort it takes to organize your mind, this is what's going to happen. First, you're going to feel more joy with your family. And how many of you would want to feel more joy at home as a mother? That's kind of why we're all here. Second, you're going to sleep better and breathe easier. And it's amazing how something like files and paperwork can do that. But the reason why you're feeling stressed and the reason why you can't fall asleep at night and the reason you're feeling frustrated isn't because your family isn't great. It's because your mind can only comprehend and process so much, and we're being over-processed right now. So we're here to help you make that happen. Another thing is, this is going to help you eliminate that panic feeling. Have any of you ever woke up in the middle of the night and thought, oh, I forgot to do this? Or, it's late at night and you're like, oh, I didn't pick up that thing we needed for the fundraiser. Or have any of you ever felt that? Yeah, this panic or this chaos. How many of you think that that's part of your lives a little bit too often? A little too much panic. Okay. With this program, once I started using it, that panic feeling totally went away. I would lay down at night to fall asleep, and I would fall asleep. I would be with my husband, and I'm with my husband. I'd be hanging out with my children, and I could laugh at them, and I could enjoy being with them, and had a great time being a mother, and it was incredible. And so you're going to have that same experience. You won't have that panic. You won't feel that chaos. Another thing is that you're going to see your life for what it really is. You're going to be able to see what your potential is because you'll understand how much is on your plate and you'll understand how much you really can accomplish. And then also, it's going to really put you in this mental spot where all those dreams that you have and you think, okay, someday I'm going to do something great, or someday I'm going to be really, really happy, or someday I'm going to get that done. All of a sudden that seems attainable, and it is attainable, but your mind can get yourself around it. So that's what we're excited about. Everyone excited? Want their mind organized? Okay, it's not that hard. Now the reason why I'm doing all this is because I've been an organizer for my whole life. I mean, I use a Franklin Covey planner. They're not paying me to say this, but love Franklin Covey, and I got my first one when I was 13. And I thought planners were wonderful. And every picture of me in high school, I've got a big planner in my hand. I mean, that's what I did. And so I planned and planned and planned. And I went to a time management seminar with corporate executives when I was 17. And I'm in the front row asking questions and taking notes. And I was so excited, and I felt so organized. And my friends would ask me for tours of my planner, and I'd show them my goals. And I was the planner girl. But I wasn't stress-free. You'd think, if I'm that organized, I can't be stressed. I was more stressed than I can even believe. Even as a 16-year-old, I was just so panicked over all the stuff that had to be done. And the reason why was because when you have so many different things organized in different ways, your mind can only follow so many lists, and you can't do every goal, and you can't keep track of everything with the typical systems that are out there. I still use the planner, but I've been able to incorporate David Allen's Getting Things Done, which it's brilliant. He has done a wonderful job capturing all those open loops of things you want to be and things you want to do, and putting it in a manageable form that works with any planner or system you want to use. That's fine, but it's a method to organize your brain. And so when I became a mother, I would try prioritizing, ABC, 1, 2, 3, here's what I'm going to get done. And how many of your children cooperate with that? You're like, my A priority is to go here today, and then your child is throwing fits and won't get out of his pajamas, then you're pretty upset, and you think, oh, man, I can't get anything done. And then at the end of the day, if you haven't checked off your list, how do you feel? Like a failure. You think, I'm a failure. But then you've been raising children and loving them and nurturing life and sustaining life all day, and then you call yourself a failure? That's not right. So this is what we're going to do, is we're going to walk through how it's going to help you and how it's going to change all of that. I got a letter from a mother who I think put it perfectly. And this is really why I've started becoming so passionate about this, is because I get these letters seriously several times a week from moms right now. And here's one I think you'll relate to. She said to her friends, she's writing to her friends about this program. So recently, I had one of those days. Actually, it seems I can make that statement at the end of most days lately. It was one of those days involving a teething baby, 7 other children running in and out of my house, my daughter decorating her face with peanut butter, piles of dishes and loads of laundry screaming to be done, 3 cups of apple juice spilled consecutively, realizing that 2 of my 3 toilets looked scary, in parentheses says understatement, finding a very overdue medical bill, etc. I could go on, but why? That's nothing new to you, and nothing new to you, right? This scenario probably sounds incredibly familiar, and I can almost guarantee that each of you have had these days that easily top this one. Now, I'm not complaining. Then she has, okay, maybe a little. She said, I like to think of it as venting. I feel very blessed that I even have my sweet children, access to yummy peanut butter, and even nasty toilets to use. The reason I'm sharing this recent frustrating day with you is that I've found a few red flags that have been popping up in my mind lately. I feel like I'm running a million miles an hour, but in a million different directions. At least if I were running that fast in one direction, I'd be getting somewhere. However, I am not, and as a result, I'm falling further behind in life with everything. You guys get it? So while I'm not loving this situation, I've just kind of taken the attitude of, I just need to get through this day. Huge mistake, but I did not realize what a big mistake it was until lately. My getting through survival type mindset has taken a toll. I've been grumpier with my husband, just ask, or maybe don't, less patient with my kids, losing my love of motherhood, and feeling very stuck. My husband tried introducing me to a book called Getting Things Done, and while I loved much of it and feel it has a lot of worthwhile information, I felt that I needed something more mom-specific. Then a miracle happened, and I found this website called The Power of Moms, and they took the Getting Things Done book and made a mom-friendly version of it. Yay, someone loves me. I like that phrase. I do. I love this because I think it will help me to grow and feel more connected to other moms and myself, which is something I've kind of lost lately. I really do not want to have to grin and bear it through these next several years of motherhood and feel like I'm doomed to never grow mentally, spiritually, or emotionally. I'm hoping that if you're in need of something like this site, and my money says you are, that you will take the time to check it out and feel a little more motivation in motherhood, not give up on yourself, and reignite the love of the lifestyle we have chosen. I really hope you enjoy it. And then she finishes with, thanks for reading my novel. It's my first one. So cute. Now, this email totally made my day, not because this mom was having a hard time, but because that she's finding that there's hope. And I know that there are millions of moms out there who need hope because I was one of those moms. And I understand that they're feeling tired and they're frustrated and they're angry. Like, I get that. I've felt that. And I feel it sometimes too, but because I have gotten my mind organized, that has changed, and it's not affecting me the way it used to affect me. It was like something magic happened. All of a sudden, my son said, hey, Mom, want to go play soccer? And I thought, yeah, I do want to play soccer. And I went out in the backyard and played, and I thought, this is the first time I have ever done that. A friend of mine started using it, and she said, my little boy, she has 5 boys, they asked me to come jump on the trampoline, and she said, for the first time in my life, I went out and jumped on a trampoline with them, and they said, Mom's coming, and they all jumped with me. And she said, it's amazing how the stress just whoosh, goes away. And so my opinion is that if the stress is this easy to go away, we even know how to get this out to the moms of the world. If every mother could feel her mind put together, feel organized, feel ready to take on whatever's coming at her, and still willing to simplify and put her energies in the right spots. I mean, think about what the world's going to become. And one mom was writing in about Mind Organization for Moms, and she said, I hope that every mother uses this, because then, watch out, world. You guys are the power. You are the ones who are literally raising a nation. And so as we're together, I want you asking questions. I want you helping me clarify. The system works. The only question is if I can communicate it clearly enough and help you to see that it works, because it absolutely does. So what we're going to do is we're just going to look at our sheet right here, and we're going to start. I've got a picture of this lovely dry erase board. The story behind this is that I put together Mind Organization for Moms. Some of you might not be able to see the board clearly, but it'll be here on your sheet. I put together Mind Organization for Moms in a written little book, 60 pages or so, and it just wasn't working exactly right. Not everyone was really getting it. And so at our last retreat, I hadn't planned on even talking about mind organization for moms, but I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, the day I was supposed to present, and this picture was just in my head. I just woke up with a picture. And I've never had that happen. I thought, okay, I'm going to go draw a picture. And so I snuck in the bathroom because my roommate was sleeping, and I drew this picture, and then I brought it out and showed her, and she helped me kind of clarify. And this has really made sense more to me and helped a lot of other moms understand too. So when we're organizing our minds, what we're doing is we're going to look at the center section first. We're going to focus on what has to be on your brain. Like when you're with your children, when you're with your family, you can't keep all your thousands of ideas on your brain at the same time because your brains aren't made to work that way. You're going to keep 4 things on your brain. Then once a week, you're going to have 6 things that you review. And then these items over here are totally off your brain. These are things that are there to support you, but you don't have to give them 1 thought or 1 ounce of energy. And as you start taking things off your brain and putting them in the places where they belong, the rest of your brain, the brain power you've been dedicating to trying to juggle everything, that brain power is then available to focus on your family. So that's kind of how it's going to work. What we're going to do is walk through each section, each step, and just show you how to build it. This means what you're going to buy. You can do it for under $10. You could do it with whatever you have on hand, or you can make it really nice, invest some money in it, whatever you want to do. This isn't an expensive program to follow. But we'll show you how to build it. And then we're going to walk through and show you how to use it. It's like building a computer. They're separate, distinct parts. They're by themselves, they don't really do anything, but when you bring them all together, then you have a great system. And it's powerful, and it's going to help you produce the results that you need. Okay, so let's turn the page, and we're going to look at what's on the center section of the diagram. We're starting with our calendar. Your calendar can be anything you want. If you want it to be your phone, then you have your calendar in your phone. That's absolutely fine. If you want to use a paper planner, I just have a little 2-page calendar. This is my calendar for my month. And then it also includes things like a day calendar. You know, I have a day list. So however you want to do it. Your phone can take care of month and day, or you can do it as a paper planner. The main thing that you need to remember with a calendar is it's things that have to be done specifically on that day. Now, how many of you have ever had a day planner or a list and you'll write 3 times as many things as you can actually get done? Yes. And then what do you do when you accomplish 4 of them? What do you do with the other 12 or the other 11 or whatever? What do you do? You rewrite them on the next page. Okay. How many of you are tired of rewriting tasks? How many of you feel really excited as you're rewriting it? You know, the same thing for the 12th time. No, we don't like that. We don't like to rewrite. So you're not going to rewrite anymore because the things that you're writing on your calendar are going to be done that day. They get a check or they get an X. Like you're either not going to do it or you're going to do it that day. Like if it's your mom's birthday and you say, I need to call my mom for her birthday. I mean, you can call her later if you want to, but her birthday's not going to be tomorrow. You know, you need to call her today. Today is her birthday. If you have a doctor appointment at 2 o'clock on Thursday, you can't show up at 9 o'clock on Friday and expect them to accommodate you, right? It's a specific deadline. So if there's something that you need to get done, but that doesn't have to be done, it doesn't go on your calendar. For example, I don't know, what's something that you would like to get done? What's something that might be on your calendar? It's not date specific. Lose 20 pounds. Okay. I'll put that on my calendar. Today I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Or even just like, oh, I'm going to, go to the gym. Well, does the gym have to be done that day? No, it's not really date specific. So we'll show you where to put that. But you won't put go to the gym. You won't put things that are just routines. That's not a date specific activity. You'll do birthdays, you'll do appointments, you'll do deadlines. We'll talk about calendar triggers. If there's something coming up and you don't want to forget, like, oh, I'm going to need to check on that, you can do a little trigger on your calendar. Hey, have you remembered to check on the T-ball class or whatever? So you can do triggers, but we're not going to use our calendar to write down every little thing we want to do. Calendars are date specific, and the great thing about that is you'll get to the point where, okay, here's my calendar. I have 3 things that need to be done that day, and they're all really easy. It's like do this one item on the computer and go buy some fruit for a salad I'm making. Like that's the only thing that had to be done that day. So then I get those things done because mostly I get checks. I mean, occasionally I'll have an arrow, and that's okay. Mostly I earn checks every day for my 2 things or my 3 things, and then I feel really good. And then I have this creativity and this flexibility to do all the other stuff I want to do in the right way, using the right lists. So that's the first thing. You're just going to get a calendar. And if you're not a calendar person, you need to become a calendar person. Because when you're trying to remember, I'll remember to come to your house Thursday. I'll remember that doctor appointment. I'll remember the due date. You might remember, because there are some people with really good memories, But what's happening is remembering that is taking up space in your brain that could be used for your family. So it's a choice that you're making. If you're going to keep everything in your head, you're choosing to keep some things out of your life. So you need a calendar, and you're going to keep it with you. It's got to be portable, like your phone or something. Okay, second thing, you're going to have an immediate next actions list. This is where you put all the other stuff that needs to get done that week, the next few days. Immediate next actions list means it's pretty immediate. So if there's an event on Friday, and you've got to prepare for it, and you have to, let's say, purchase something at Staples or go to a store and buy something, then you're going to put it on your immediate next actions list. Now this list is organized by context. We're not just going to have a long list of things to do, because you look at that list, and how many of you feel overwhelmed when you just look at a list of long things to do? Where do you start, right? There's so many things. So there's 5 contexts that you'll put, and you can arrange this to work for you, but these are the 5 that generally work for 90% of the moms. First, you have things to do at home, and that's just stuff around the house. Maybe you have a paint chips you need to fix, or you have something to organize or something to clean or whatever, something you need to do around the house. Next one would be your phone calls. Next is computer work. 4th is errands. And 5th is things to discuss with the one you love. So it's kind of like agenda items. And you could have a few agenda items, like one for home or one for work if you needed something like that. So you have these 5 contexts on your list. Now the way that I build it is in using my same planner. You can do it however you want. Some people who like to keep their calendar on a phone will then just keep a little booklet with them of their next actions. You can keep your next actions list on your phone. There's plenty of apps that involve GTD, getting things done. However, you have to be willing to put every single task into your phone. And most moms don't have the time to always type it in their phone. It's much easier to scribble it on something, because if you say, oh, I'll just remember that, no, you can't. You can't remember things anymore. Everything's got to be written down somewhere, because that's where the relief comes from. So what I do is there's little compass cards, that's what they call them, just a little page finder that has inserts. And so this is my immediate next actions list. And I pull it out, and I have my home, phone, errands, computer, and my husband. We have nothing to talk about right now. All this computer work and nothing to talk to my husband about. We've got to change that. Okay, so I just have my immediate next actions list. And if there's something that needs to be done, like, okay, let's say I'm talking to my daughter, and she says, hey, Mom, can you call my friend's mother and arrange a play date? And I say, sure, I'd love to have you have a play date with your friend. So I don't write it on my calendar, because it's not calendar specific unless she says tomorrow's play date. Then it goes on my calendar. But if she says, I'd just like to have a play date in the next week or so, I get out my immediate next actions list, and I'm going to write under the phone, call my, Madison's mom, or whatever it is, okay? So this is just how to build it right now. We're not going to talk too much about how to make it work. We'll do that next. But you're going to need an immediate next actions list. So some piece of paper, it can just be a piece of paper, and you write the 5 contexts on it, but you have to carry it with you, because it's something you're going to be working off of. It's on your brain. This is on your brain with your calendar. Okay, next we have our email folders. Do all of us use email? I assume anyone who's visiting a website is into emails and things like that. So I think email is kind of part of our culture. I do a lot of work on email. And so my email inbox is, usually it's a happen in place during the day. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to respond to emails in a way that doesn't cause stress. Just to build this part of the system, we'll talk more about how to make it work later. To build this part of the system, you're going to take everything in your email inbox, and you're going to put it into folders. And these are the folders you'll use. One of them will say @immediate action. Now the @ sign is put in there because alphabetically that comes first. So even if you have tons of folders for friends, family, whatever it is, the @ sign will rise to the top. So you want these 5 folders at the top: @immediate action, @important action, @incubation, @someday, and @waiting. These are our 5 folders, and these terms you're going to start using a lot, because we're going to have similar folders in our other sections. And then you'll have your own files, other things that you might want. Okay, so let's talk about what those mean briefly so you can understand that. @immediate action are emails you need to respond to within, how long would you say? A week? A few days? Maybe that day? I check my @immediate action folder consistently, because these are the ones that need responses. Your at important action are emails that require action, but that don't need to be done, right now. Like someone says, hey, there's this great recipe. Go on this website, and then you can print it off free, and you'll love it. Well, so that requires an action, but does it matter if I do it this week? No, I can do that next month. I can do it next year. It doesn't matter. But if that requires action, it's something I need to do that I want to do, and I think, okay, that's an important action because I like that recipe. You put it into at important action. Then at incubation are ideas that you want to still consider. You haven't made a decision on yet. So you'll put those into at incubation, and they're just incubating. They're waiting to see if they're going to mature and develop into something that you want to do, or they're just going to be deleted because you decide it didn't matter. And then you're going to have your at someday, which means, yes, I want to do this. I just can't do it right now. I'll do it someday. And when you come to a conference like this, or you talk to friends, they're going to give you so many great ideas. They'll tell you, hey, there's a great book, there's a great movie, there's a great event. You're going to definitely want to be part of this. And you think, oh, I do want to do that. But right now, everyone's got the flu. So what do? I mean, you can't just leave it in your inbox. You've got to do something with it. So you put it into someday. And then you're going to be checking that. And we'll talk about how you'll be able to check it. You're not going to lose it. You're just putting it into someday, saving it, but not stressing about it. And then finally, you have at waiting. These are things that you're waiting for a response from somebody else. So let's say there's an email that comes in and it says, hey, we're going to be getting together for this event next year, or there's another Power of Moms retreat you might want to go to, and you think, yes, I want to attend, but I have to wait for this one friend to get back to me to see if she can come too. So you put it into waiting. So this email's waiting, and you're going to be checking it to follow up if you need to. But you have a waiting file where you don't have to keep it on your desk, or keep it, right? We keep things in our inbox, or we keep things in a pile. How many of you have a pile on your kitchen counter of papers, right? Everyone's like, I put it in the pile. And then how do you feel when you look at the pile? Stressed. We feel stressed when we're looking at the pile. It's not fun. So we don't have piles anymore. That's not part of the process. So it's exact same things with your email inbox. But the reason this is on the brain is because in your email inbox, you're going to want to be checking and processing it. So as long as you've accomplished what you need to accomplish on your calendar for the day, you get up in the morning, you know what's on your calendar, you look at your immediate next actions list. If there's things that need to be done in context, I'm making phone calls right now, I'll make these phone calls, or I'm running errands, here are my errands. Those are things on your brain. Your emails, you're kind of checking those maybe once a day or twice a day, however often you're on the computer. And then the final thing that's on your brain is just your read review basket. Now, nothing in here has a deadline, or it would be on your calendar, okay? Anything on your calendar has a deadline, but things in your read review basket are just things that you need to read and review that don't have a specific action attached, and they don't have a deadline. So, here are some things we have in here. We want to learn more about how to play golf. So, my husband gives me this little golf manual, and we have some basketball manuals because I know nothing about those sports, and he loves them, so I'm trying to learn. And I have a Spanish fold-out card. I'm trying to learn Spanish. So, you have all these things. If you're like, oh, I don't want to throw it away because I want to read it, you can't stick it on your pile because you're never going to do it. So you put all these things together. This can also include things like your shopping ads. They'll send you the ads for the grocery store. And the PTA has a newsletter. They're just kind of talking about what's going on with the newsletter. I keep a manual to my camera. I got a new camera, and I want to read through the manual to learn how to use the settings. So just put this in there. And then you're going to keep this basket in a place where you would do reading and reviewing. So if your children take a bath every night and you're sitting by the bathtub, you might want to read and review during the bath. Or if you like to sit in a chair while the children play out in the backyard after dinner, then you could keep this right there and you can kind of read review if you had time. Or if you're in the car a lot, if you're driving around to a bunch of practices or things and you're like, I'm wasting time sitting in the car waiting for my children, you could have a read review basket with all the things that you need to be looking through. And it's also a good idea just to keep a little notebook and a pen in there, so if there's an idea that comes to you that you want to start implementing, you can jot it down, and we'll talk about where that's going to go. Okay, so these 4 things, does that make sense so far? Calendar, immediate next actions list. We do have a question over here. Can we get the microphone? Okay, so because we're going to have our calendar, immediate next actions list, email folders, read review basket. Can your brains handle that? Okay, that's totally doable. I can handle these 4 things. Yes?
Okay, the immediate next actions list, is
Yes.
that something that you're just building on every day? It's a one list
Okay.
that you're keeping through the week? Or are you
Good
trying
point.
to get everything off of it at the end of the day? Because I know it's not day specific.
Right, this isn't day specific. If I did get everything done in one day, that'd probably be a miracle, but you could. I usually keep mine for a week, and then every week during my weekly review, which we'll talk about, I create a new one. And my goal is not to rewrite these things on my next immediate actions list, because if I'm writing the same thing 4 weeks in a row on my immediate next actions list, is it really immediate? No, then it's going to go onto a different list. So immediate next
adding
action.
to it every day.
I'm usually adding to it every day. So let's say I'm out here at this event and someone says, oh, you've got to read this book. And I think, you know what? I need that book now. This is going to change my life. Then I go to my errands and say, get that book at the library. And I stick it in my calendar. Is that good? All right, so all these 4 things make sense? We're good that way? Okay, great. Let's turn our page, and we're going to now talk about things that are on your brain once a week. This weekly plan, this idea of a weekly review, we've been talking about this a lot. It's a great way to plan for your family. It's a great way to plan for your own goals. You want to be able to have time each week to think. Now, if you're pregnant or sick or going through survival mode and you don't get to it that week, generally that's okay if things are pretty slow. I mean, if you've got deadlines and things that are pressing, you're going to want to do it every week. You might even want to do it a couple times a week if your life's really stressful and you just have papers coming in all the time. But generally, a weekly review is an okay thing for most of us to get to, right? You can maybe plan 30 minutes to an hour every week to sit down and get settled for the coming week, right? I do mine typically on Monday night. Sundays are kind of our family day and are really busy for us. So Monday night after my children are tucked in bed, I go and I can kind of get a handle on the week that's coming. So you can pick whatever day works for you. It could be a Friday afternoon, if you're working full time and you kind of close up your desk, you want to start planning, and then you go into your weekend feeling totally organized. That's great too. Whatever is going to work for you. This is a time that you're going to guard preciously, because there are certain things that are only going to have to be on your brain once a week, and you're going to love it. It's going to be really fun to go through it. Now, where we're going to start is with our inbox. Okay? Everyone needs an inbox. Every mother needs an inbox. I keep this, just a little plastic tray, $1 at the store or whatever. Keep a plastic tray next to my desk upstairs. I have an office upstairs, and so I have an inbox. This is like my main inbox where I keep things. Now, how many of you receive papers and flyers and things when you're not sitting at a desk? Everyone. Okay, as moms, most of us are receiving, what are the inboxes we're receiving? Like voicemails, text messages, flyers hanging on the doorknob, school stuff, children just getting their backpacks out and handing you a stack that's how high, like that, like so many favors. So we're getting so many things. So what you're going to do is you're going to have inboxes. I'm going to show you I'm going to make a little folder here listing your inboxes. I think we have a picture of that here that's on your sheet. You're going to have your list of inboxes that you need to check regularly. So here I have my snail mail box, my email, voicemail, social networking. So I'll check my Facebook account or Twitter account to see if there's any direct messages. And this might include things like the kitchen counter or the kids' backpacks. You're just going to make a list of everything that you need to check. Where are all the places that all your messages are coming from? And you're going to consolidate all of it into your main inbox. So if you check your voicemail or you press your answering machine button and you write down 5 phone calls, you take that and you put it into your main inbox. And this is what you're checking once a week. Now, if it's an immediate phone call and you need to get back to them right away, where does it go? In your immediate next actions list, or on your calendar if you need to call them tomorrow or whatever. So if there's something that can't wait till Sunday or Monday or whenever you're doing weekly review, you can do it or write it down, defer it for a specific day or specific context. But generally, you can take all your messages and all your things and put them into your main inbox. Now, on your sheet of paper, you see your inbox, and you also see a file that's labeled weekly review. This can be really any kind of file you want. I have a picture here of a portable file because my husband uses a portable one because sometimes it's, he'll take it to church or, to work or have something that's kind of portable. So he has his weekly review. I just use a basket. This is my weekly review. I might graduate to a stadium file because I think they look really fun. But right now I just have a little tray, and this is my weekly review file system. Pretty simple. Can you deal with this little tray once a week? That's doable, right? Okay, so once a week you're going to consolidate your inboxes. This is my on-the-counter inbox. I got it at the Dollar Tree for $1. And it's just a little box that I stick on my kitchen counter. And when my children give me their papers, I go through and find the ones that require my action. We throw away a lot of stuff, file a lot of stuff quickly. Anything that requires my actions go in here. And then when I'm ready for my weekly review, I take everything out of that blue box, everything out of everywhere in my house. And my inbox maybe has, I don't know, 25 things or 30 things in it for the week. Not too much. I mean, it's going to take some time to process it, but it's not too bad. So each week I go and get my inbox and I'm going to empty it. And these are the other things that you're going to create. I'm just going to talk to you about how to create this weekly file system right now. All it is a system of 5 folders. So, well, the 6th folder is just a list of your inboxes. I had a mom say, you have to write down where all your inboxes are and have a list you can review, because when you sit down for your weekly review, if you've forgotten to check one of those places, then it's going to be one of those open loops. So that's why I just added this inboxes file. Okay, these are the other 5 folders that you're going to add. Very simple. Your first one is going to be your current projects folder. This is where you can actually see everything that you are juggling, and you're going to start realizing that you are really working hard if you don't know that already. Your current projects folder is really simple to build. Now these projects don't need to be like big projects. This is just anything that involves more than one step. You know, for example, I keep on here, I want to learn how to use my new camera, right? I had the read review thing in there, but it's kind of a project to learn how to use it. I want to visit websites, I want to buy a special book, I want to interview a friend. There's things I need to do to learn how to use it. So I have that on my project for me. When I think about a project for my family, one of our projects is to coordinate piano lessons for my 2 daughters. So I'm trying to teach them myself from home, but I need to get a couple extra books, and we need to set up a little sticker chart or do something. It's a project to organize our piano lessons. So that's here for my family. That's a project. A possible project that we have with Beyond is our website setting up an Amazon store. So I need to figure out just how to do a few different things in order to make our store a little bit better that goes with our website. So that's a project. So these are your current projects. That means these are projects that you're working on right now between now and the next couple of months. And you want this to be a pretty manageable list, because this is what you're thinking about, and these are the things that you're trying to juggle. If a current project is on here for several months, then we're going to move it because it's not a current project. Okay, does that make sense so far? Okay. Next one is our important next actions. These are all the things done in the exact same context as your immediate next actions, except these are done, you're just going to have a sheet of paper inside the folder for each context. And you can do this however you want. I'm just telling you one way that works so you can kind of get your head around it, and then you're smart and you can figure out what's going to work for you. So you're just going to have, I don't know if I should show you all the pictures, basically one for errands, like my little car. We have errands. Do you guys like the pictures? Is that fun? Moms are kind of visual. Okay, so we have our little car for errands, and we have our little orange phone for phone calls. And then I drew a little heart to represent conversations I need to have or things I need to discuss with my spouse. And then we finally, or 2 more, we have computer, just a little sheet where you're going to write down computer work that needs to be done. It's an action that needs to be done. And then we're going to have their final list. Sorry, these sheets are getting things to do at home. So I just have my 5 little context lists that are inside of a folder. You just create them, and we'll talk more about how to use them later. Does that sound okay, though? So next actions, these are things that are the next action necessary to move a project forward, but it doesn't have to be done immediately. It's just important. It's a current project. I'll give you one example of these, though. I shall say this out. Let's say one of my current projects is to organize the piano lessons for my daughter. Okay, what's the next action? What's the first thing I need to do, the very next thing, in order to get the piano lessons to happen? Like, I'm thinking in my head, well, can I just go out and buy a book? Well, I don't know which book to buy. So how am I going to know which book to buy? Well, my husband has 2 aunts who are piano teachers, so I'm going to call them and ask them which book to purchase. So I'll get out my phone call list, because this isn't immediate. It doesn't have to happen this week. It's just something I need to do when I'm making phone calls at some point in the next few months. So I pull out my phone call list and I say, call our aunt to ask her which book to purchase. Okay? Now, when I'm in a context where I'm making phone calls and I've done all my immediate phone calls, then I can pull out the sheet and see all the next phone calls that I need to make. But if I don't get to this for a few months, or I don't get to it for a while, is anything going to really go terrible? I mean, my kids might not play the piano that great, but it's not the end of the world. It's okay. So this next actions list helps you organize all the things you need to do by context, but gets them off your brain, because it's not something you have to focus on right this minute. Like your cute baby in the high chair, that's what you need to focus on right this minute. Calling somebody about piano book is that's lower on the list for you, unless that it became essential, and then you would move it up to your immediate list. Okay, so we've got our important next actions. Our next folder is just called routines and responsibilities. This is a great idea that I wish I had thought of, but I'm grateful that David Allen thought of it. And this is where you're going to keep track of all the things that you wouldn't calendar, but that are part of your routine, things that you don't need to really remind yourself to do, but you just kind of want a list to keep track of it. Now, I keep mine. I'll show you more later exactly how I do mine, and I kind of tailor it to meet my specific needs. But what you'll want to do is the simplest way is just to get one sheet of paper. I have a little picture of it drawn on there. Across the top, you have daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly. So just the time of the year when you would do something. And then it's for me, for my family, and beyond. We have a little picture of a dollar bill and a cupcake representing like paid work or volunteer work there. So for me, my family, and beyond. So let's just talk briefly. I'd love to hear your ideas, and we don't really need to use the microphone. We'll just kind of talk, and I'll repeat. So what are some things that personal things that you do daily, that you would think of as a routine? Exercise. Okay, so every day, under the me category, I'm going to write exercise. What's something that your family does once a month? I don't know, maybe a big deep cleaning of the house once a month, where you're really getting in there and doing some of the major dusting or the really big projects. Or what's something that your business would do every week? Maybe every week I need to have this meeting with my coworker or something like that. We do a weekly phone call. Or if you run a blog, every day I post a blog, and every month we do a giveaway, or whatever it is that you're doing with your business or with your home or with your PTA committee or with a church calling, something that you're responsible to do. Okay, so you can have your daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, and I just put all the things on there that I want to get accomplished during that time for my routines and my responsibilities. And this is something you're going to review once a week, and typically you can just look at it and say, okay, I've got it. Or if there's something you think, oh yeah, I'm supposed to do that every month, I'm going to put that on my immediate next actions list to remind myself. So this is just kind of a little trigger for you. You don't have to go through and put them all on there.
A really important thing to add to that is
do you want to get a microphone?
Yeah.
Oh, you just want.
It's just it'll only.
Well, here, I think you matter. We need to hear you.
Well, last night we were talking about picking our priorities. Now, when we're trying to figure out which balls to juggle, this is an extremely helpful thing to do during your weekly review. Look at it and think, hey, I was asked this week whether I would participate on this new committee at my kids' school. Let me look. Let me say I don't know. Remember, that was one of our things we were going to do to take care of the person inside the mom. We're going to say, I'm not sure whether or not I can commit to that. You review this, you look at it, and you think, you know what? I do think I have a little bit of room to help with that committee, because it would be a monthly thing, and my monthly thing, I don't have that many things on my list. I could do that. Or you look at it and you say, you know what? I need to say no to that because I see I have too many things going on. So this is a very important thing to add into your picking your priorities and you're taking care of the person inside the mom.
Thank you. Such a good point. And this is something where you could also include your regular household duties. Okay, every day our family takes out the trash. We do laundry every week. We do car washing every week. We're doing a dejunking or an organizing quarterly. All these things that you're doing regularly, you can put it on here so you can see what your workload is like with your family or just your own personal goals or whatever it is you're trying to do. This is a really good visual. And you might even need to get a few pages to go with this, where you could have a whole one just for you, or one just for your work, or one just for your family. And this is something that will really take a ton off your brain.
And April, you just make this list once.
You make this list once. Yes. Make it once, and then you change it once in a while. You can add to it. You don't have to rewrite this. It's kind of your standard. Of course, your life's going to change. You're going to get new responsibilities, maybe a new position, maybe you start a new business, maybe your children are growing and are involved in more activities. So then okay, now I have tennis every week. Oh, now we have music lessons every week. Oh, now we have this. And this is also a good way to be able to look at it and say, okay, I've got to stop. I can only grow so much. Maybe you want to keep it one sheet of paper, and if it doesn't fit on the paper, then it can't fit in your life. There's got to be some standard that you're going to use to stop yourself from overscheduling, because how many moms in the world are overscheduled right now? Pretty much all the moms I know, including myself sometimes. So we're trying to keep this more simple for all of us. Okay, your next list is your waiting list. You're just going to get a folder, label it waiting, and just put a piece of paper in there. It's pretty simple. it's exactly like your email waiting list. These are things that you're waiting for somebody else to do something before you can move forward. Now, one thing I want to point out about this is occasionally the item itself can be the reminder. For example, in my waiting folder right now, I have a landscaping proposal for sod in our backyard. My husband and I are trying to decide if we're going to do concrete or sod, and we just haven't decided yet because he wants a basketball court, and we're trying to decide if that's the right thing to do right now. And so I can't move forward on this right now until we make that decision. We're just waiting on it. So I just stick this in my waiting folder, and I'm going to look at it once a week and say, no, not ready for sod yet. And I'm not going to write it on my waiting list because it's already in my folder and I already looked at it. I mean, I could write it on my waiting list if I just wanted one comprehensive list and I had a really full folder I didn't want to flip through, that's fine. But if I've got one thing in my folder, I'm not going to write it on the list. So sometimes the item itself can just be the reminder for you. Now, let's say I keep seeing it in my waiting folder and I'm getting kind of frustrated, like, oh, this has been in here forever. I've been waiting for this forever. Why can't we make a decision? Then I would go to my immediate next actions list and write under my spouse's name, let's make a decision on the concrete or the sod once and for all. We've got to decide. So that could be something you would just go and write down on your list. It's pretty simple. Okay, we have one more folder. This is a fun one. This is all for you and for your own personal growth, and we're going to call it your goal review folder. It can be kind of a personal list. We did call it personal lists. That's what's in the picture. But Saren had a better idea to call it your goal review. These are the things that you really want to be. So what I do is if I go to a conference and I have my list of things I will do, right? At the end of the conference, I've written a list. These are all the things I'm going to do because of this conference. I put it in this folder, my personal list, my goal review folder. And then once a week, I'm going to look through this folder and I'm going to see what kinds of things that I have in here that I might be ready to implement into my life. Because there are so many goals we have. I mean, if you really wrote down every goal you have right now, you probably have hundreds and hundreds of goals of things that you'd love to do someday. So these are just a few of the lists that I have in mind. One is called Who I Want to Be. I write down characteristics. Like I want to be punctual. I want to be intelligent. I want to be compassionate. Whatever you want to be, I write down those phrases so that every week I'm looking at it and thinking, how am I doing? Am I being a patient mother? Am I being involved in my community? Am I giving myself a break sometimes? Who do I want to be? Because you could just become that, but if you're writing it down and you're reviewing it, it's more likely that you're actually going to get to that spot by becoming that. Another list you could put in there is something like habits. These are just habits I want to develop. I don't want to bite my fingernails. I don't want to just put stuff in a pile all over the place. Or, I don't want to waste time online when it's just a bad habit. I keep going online when I just know I have more important things to do. Okay, and then another one is you can just put down your key relationships. These are the people that matter most to me. And we could combine this with the 5-facet review we've spoken about, looking at your children physically and spiritually, mentally, etc. Have a list of all the people who matter most to you. So every week, as you're looking at your current projects, you're looking at your next actions, you're kind of identifying your routines, seeing what you're waiting for. You're also looking through who are the people who are most important to me, and is my coming week reflecting that? Am I spending way too much time working on this business than I am actually spending time one-on-one with my spouse or my children? Or have I totally forgotten to call my mom in the past, several weeks, and I've just been, preoccupied doing other stuff? So this is a chance for you to really think about who you are and develop who you want to be, and then have a way to review it every week. So it's not stressful, it's just part of your weekly review as you're looking at where you are and who you are. Okay, so that's it. Every week you're going through your inbox and you're checking your little tray full of lists. Does that seem doable? Okay, that's your once a week. Now we're going to talk about the things that are totally off your brain. Let's turn in our packet, and we're going to go to page 7. Okay, this is your things that are off my brain list. The first one is our current project support materials. Now remember, we had that list over here in our weekly review file called current projects. There's lots and lots of projects that might be in here. I mean, hopefully manageable, but you've got a list of a whole bunch of projects. Now let's say you're working with a Boy Scout committee. And along with that committee, you have paperwork and little manuals or an order form for badges or a whole bunch of things that go with that project. You don't keep it in here. You're going to keep it in your current project support materials. So I'll show you how you're going to do that. A cubby system is my favorite way to do it. You could just do a series of stacking trays. You could just have, a file box or something like that where you're going to have things filed. The reason I like it this way is because I feel like it's a visual representation of the projects I'm currently working on. And I keep it on my desk and I can just look at it and I can see what's on my plate and I can see which box, maybe is full or which one needs some attention. So I really like having a cubby system. So I'll explain how to do it with the cubbies. You adapt it to whatever's going to work for your setup, your personality, however you'd like to do it. Now, in this current project support materials cubby system, you're going to label or, just however you want to set it up. I've just started labeling mine. Right here, this is my Power of Moms project. Within the Power of Moms, we have a lot of projects going on. We're working on a book, we're doing marketing, I have writing ideas, I have a retreats project. So each project has its own folder, but we group like projects together. So this would be for Power of Moms. Now this bottom one involves just my family, like family management. Things like family traditions we want to develop, or our different goals I have for helping our family coordinate a cleaning schedule so we can all clean together. Just different things like that. I keep a journal, a folder for little cute journal entries, things that they do that are really cute. I can scribble them on a scrap of paper in my kitchen, and instead of sticking it into my pile, then I can put it into a folder that's specifically for loose leaf journal items. That someday when I'm not so busy with lots of children, I can go and I can open up my folder of all these little loose leaf pieces of paper and I can put them together into a really nice journal. And it's not something like, oh, it's another thing I have to do. It's just tucked away safely in a place that I can access when I need it. So I put a few ideas of how you can organize your cubbies. You're clearly going to want to do it according to what your job or projects or whatever is, but here's some ideas. You'll want to have some cubbies that are just for you. We're going to call these our for me cubbies. One might be your personal education. So when I read books, like right now I'm trying to learn Spanish. So I have a magazine that's printed in Spanish in here, and then I can take notes or do something when I'm studying Spanish, and I can stick it in there. That's my personal education. Or you read a book, and you're like, oh, I love that book, and I wrote down 3 quotes I love about it. You can put it right there in your personal education cubby. Another one could be your personal journal or blog ideas. If you run a blog, and I know lots of people who have blogs, they'll keep thinking of things that they could write about, and then they sit down to blog and they can't remember all the things they wanted to blog about. So you can have a little list or have different things like that within your blog or personal journal cubby. Another one is personal health and fitness. You can take your gym schedule, you could do a diet tracker, you could have articles you ripped out of magazines that you really wanted to apply and think about and create current projects from those things. However you'd want to do it, that's just one option. I would also in my health folder keep things like my prescriptions from doctors that I'm not quite ready to fill yet, but I might want to fill. Or if we just talked to the allergist and he gave us a bunch of recommendations on a sheet of paper, where do I put it? Like I don't want to file it necessarily because I'm still kind of using it and needing it. So then I'll put it in our health folder, and I have a children's health folder. That's all their current medical stuff. So then when it's time to go to the doctor and I think, oh, where did I put that? I just go right over to my health folder and I pull it out. It's really a simple way to keep track of that. After you have, and then social correspondence might be another one you have. For example, in this bottom folder, I just keep wedding announcements, letters somebody's written to me. We're putting together a special book for my mom's birthday, so I have some paper that I need to write the letter on. Our whole family's putting together a book. So I keep that in here. Now, none of these things, however, have to be on my brain because everything is referenced either on my calendar or on a next actions list or a current projects list. So these lists keep track of everything in here. This is just here so when it's time to work on it, I know where to go. And I don't always have to go to your filing cabinet because you're only going to file stuff that you really only need for reference. So we'll talk more about that next. Okay, so let's talk about some of the cubbies you might have for your family. You could have a finances cubby if you're the one that pays the bills and you want to keep track of the statements and you want to keep track of anything else with your accounts. You have a finances cubby. You have a family systems cubby. We've talked all today about family economy and having our laws and consequences and things involving that. You could do your home management cubby where you could have, let's say, you get a little flyer on your doorstep. Someone does tree repair or lawn care or something, and you think, oh, that might be nice to have. So you could put that in there if you're considering doing something like that. having something like children's school projects. Sometimes my children are working on a really long-term project, and I need to keep track of some of the information, and I don't want to just have everything stuck to my fridge, because sometimes you get a refrigerator totally full of everything you need to be thinking about. So I would reference the due date on my calendar, and then I would put that paper into my children's projects cubby. You could also have a family activities cubby, where all the fun things that you want to do. These are field trips, these are fun adventures. Here's a whole list of 100 free things to do in the city, or whatever, but having a cubby devoted to those kinds of things. And then you'll also probably want a beyond cubby. So something involved with church involvement, or community volunteer positions, or something with your employment. It's a place you're going to keep track of all the projects that are related to that. And you'll organize them however it works for you. With this particular cubby, I can print a label out just using an automatic labeler, and they just fit perfectly right here along the sides, so I can label them however I'd like. So that's a really simple option. But this is your current project support materials. And seriously, as I was looking through this, I was kind of cleaning it out before I came to make sure it was a little clean, because sometimes it gets cluttered. So I was cleaning it out, and as I was looking through it, I realized there are thousands of ideas in there. I mean, thousands. All these things that I want to do. I mean, you really start thinking big because you have a place to put all these big thoughts. Am I going to accomplish all of these? No, not at all. I might only accomplish a few, but I'm going to accomplish the top ones because I've gathered them, I've protected them, and when I start thinking, oh, I'd love to do that one activity, or I'd love to do that one thing to help my family progress or become more healthy or whatever it is, then I know exactly where to find it. So this current project support material has been wonderful. Everyone, does that make sense to everyone, how that works? Okay. Next, we're going on to our tickler file. This, seriously, is the easiest thing to make, and it will make you so happy. You just need a tray, or you can use another file box, or you could use a Stadium file, whatever works for you. You could even use one of these cubbies for your tickler, however you would like to do it. All it is 12 folders with the names of each month on the folder. So right now I have September at the front because we're in the month of September. And when September is done, I'm going to move it to the back. And what you do with a tickler is you're going to keep track of things that you have referenced on your calendar that just have kind of support material that goes with that calendared event. For example, let's say there's a wedding reception, and you get an invitation in the mail and say, we'd love you to come to a wedding, and we're having a nice reception to follow, and it's on Saturday the 8th. And so you go to your calendar and you write down wedding reception, and then you have this announcement, or this invitation. So where do you put it? Okay, in the trash. A lot of us might put it in the trash. Well, let's say it has the address on it, it has directions, it has the groom's name, it has where they're registered, it has all this information on it. Where would you typically put it? I mean, like on your fridge, or you might put it in a pile, or stick it on your desk. So what you're going to do is, when is the month of the wedding? Let's say it's in October. You go to your October file. Actually, I have my friend's wedding announcement in here right now. It's in my October file. So then, let's say the morning comes, and I have it on my calendar, the wedding's coming, and I think, oh, I know I can't make it to the wedding, but I'm going to send a card. What was her husband's name, or what was that event? And then I just go to that month, and I pull it out, and there's all the information right there. And then I can toss it, because it's gotten to that point where I've used all the information that I needed. This works great if there's well, for example, we had somebody email us and say, I've got a great vacation home. I'd love for you to hold a Power of Moms retreat there. And I thought, oh, that's wonderful, but right now isn't the right time. So I thought, well, maybe I'll contact her, in November, and we can plan for next year. So I just printed out the email, and I stuck it in my November tickler. I could have just written a little note to myself about it or something, but I thought, oh, I'll just put it in my November tickler. And then I have a trigger on my calendar to remind me to check into it. So the only thing that you need to know about your tickler, once you've labeled each of the file folders with the months, you need to remember that everything in here needs to be referenced on your calendar. Because if it's not referenced on your calendar, this is not on your brain. You need to always have anything in your support materials referenced on your brain, because then you're not going to forget about it. It needs to be a system that's seamless, that you can trust, because you don't want another folder to check. Because what's going to happen if you get really busy, or you're stressed out, or someone in your family is just having a lot of emotional problems and you just can't get to your files. If you know you only have to keep up with your calendar, you're fine. But if you have 12 other folders all over the house to check, you're not going to check them. And then you're going to get to the next month and say, oh, I just missed everything. So anything in your tickler needs to be referenced on your calendar. And the way I do it is just do a little letter T with a circle around it. And that's my tickler symbol. So for example, I'm flying out to a meeting next weekend, and I have my confirmation printed for my airline reservation. So on my calendar for next weekend, I've written down, I'm going to fly and I'm going to leave at 7 o'clock. And then I have a little T with a circle on it, which means where do I go to find my airline itinerary? In my Tickler file. And it's totally simple. And then I just go to my Tickler and grab it. And on my packing list, I've included pack everything in the Tickler file. It's there waiting for me. If you have tickets to the zoo or tickets to an event and you're going on a specific day, you just say, oh, all my tickets are in there. Or the children have a little slip of paper that they need to take with them to the father-daughter dance to order the photos that they're going to take with their dad. And so usually you'd stick it on the fridge or you'd stick it in your pile, and then they're all dressed for the dance. You're like, where's that photo slip that we need? And you're like, oh, I don't know. And then you're digging through piles and you're all in a bad mood by the time they leave. So instead you say, yeah, the dance is in the month of October, so we're going to go to our October Tickler, and here you go. I've got it all referenced on my calendar, and we are totally organized. Starting to see how this is going to work? Like, it's beautiful. This is just so happy. Okay. So now we've gotten to our Tickler file box. We've taken care of that. The next thing you're going to need is a filing cabinet. I love the big 4-drawer filing cabinet. I think it's great to keep them streamlined and not put too much in. I use the bottom drawers for other things, but I use the top 2 drawers to store my files. If you don't have a filing cabinet, or if you can't afford a filing cabinet, or if you don't have room for a filing cabinet, you can use these banker boxes, which seriously cost $2. They hold all your files. When my husband and I were students and we were traveling around everywhere and moving 9 times, we had probably 30 file boxes of all the books and stuff that we were trying to juggle, and we just kept it all stacked up in our bedroom, and that was our file box. So the files cabinet is where you're going to keep all of your resources, things that are off your brain. Okay? Okay, so we talked about this filing cabinet. We'll just do a final review about what would go in a filing cabinet. Filing cabinet is not something that you're opening all the time. I mean, how many of you really like to file? No, a few of you might like it, but how many of you want to feel like you have to go to your filing cabinet 7 times a day? It's not really an interactive thing, right? Filing is long-term storage. So maybe you have birth certificates, you have maybe old expired IDs you might want to keep, the kids' cute pictures from junior high or something. You might have medical bills that you're now filing away just to keep for reference, receipts for tax purposes. You could have a whole file section for the business you run, all the different contacts, or a place where you put letters that people will write to you and you want a special cards and letters file. And these are things that you don't need to access that don't require any action. So your filing cabinet is stuff that's just off your brain, you're going to file. Now, one note we're going to talk about with the filing cabinet is that we need to start filing every week the things that need to be filed. Now, this inbox we talked about, where you're going to put all the papers that you're going to be processing once a week, the question was raised on how often we're emptying this inbox. And if something needs to be done right away, do you put it in the inbox? Typically, if something cannot wait until your next weekly review, then you do it right then, or you write it on your calendar. But if something can wait, and you know, okay, I got this invitation for a birthday party. It's not for 2 more weeks. I'm not going to stress about it right now. I'm going to put it in my inbox. I'll deal with it Monday night during my weekly review. You just stuck it off your brain, right? Does that make sense? So your inbox is where you're going to be processing. Now, let's say you find something in the inbox, and you think, oh, yeah, that's a medical statement. That's something that doesn't need any further action, but I don't want to throw it away because I might need it. Then that would go in your filing cabinet, and I would file it right then. Now, okay, here's the thing with the files. In the book, Getting Things Done, David Allen swears by these automatic labels. He just said, for some reason, when you have a label and you file it and you type it out and your kids would love to help, this is like the hot commodity in my house. If I say, hey, you guys want to help me file? And they're like, can I print? So they sit there and they'll type it out for me. When you label it and your files look beautiful, for some reason it encourages you to want to file more. I'm just starting to do that. I like how I print, and I think that works fine for me, but I've just heard great things about Labeler, so I have one. So what you would do is if you're going through your once a week review, you're emptying your inbox of items, and you come across something that needs to be filed, you either put it into an existing file that you've already set up, or you grab a new file folder from a plentiful supply you have, and you type out your label, and you file it right then. It's like a really quick, fluid movement. You get things filed. Because if any of you ever made a pile called my to-file pile, anyone have one? Like a whole drawer? It's like my house. So you have huge piles of all the stuff that needs to be filed, and when are you going to do it? You're never going to do it. And then you're going to have someone say, hey, do you have that recipe I gave you or that one thing I gave you? You're like, yeah, it's over there in that pile of all this stuff. And then you're going through these piles. I mean, you're with me? You've done this? Yeah. So we're not going to do that anymore. Now, as we do our weekly review, we just file as we go. Get everything put into the file box or into the filing cabinet. These are things off your brain, and it's filed, and it's ready. And then, like, I took my son to get his immunizations the other day. He's 3 years old, so excited, and he did great, didn't even cry. And I was getting ready to take him to get his immunizations, and they said, hey, be sure to bring the immunization card. So then I have it in my filing cabinet under immunizations, and it's right there. I'm not like, oh, last time I went, I came home and just threw it into that pile, and so now it's somewhere, and now I have to get a new record because all the shots are, not recorded, right? I mean, you've had things like this happen where you're recreating or you're repurchasing or you're missing something, and then it costs you money, and it costs you time, and it causes you stress. And then all of a sudden you're feeling like, I can't hold anything together. I'm a big failure. Okay, you're not. And this is how it's going to work. You file it, you put it away, and it's totally off your brain. All right, our last item is our future opportunities. That should be the last thing that's here on your page. This is just simply 2 folders. And you can do it however you want. I really liked keeping them in a little magazine holder. So I had this sitting on my desk. It doesn't take up much desk space. You could do this in something like another stackable tray. You could do it however you want. But the way I do it is you get a magazine holder, and you have 2 files, and they're labeled Incubation and Someday. Now remember when we were talking about emails, you have an @incubation and you have an @someday folder. So I look in my incubation folder and I see there's this beautiful house that I absolutely love, and I saw it and my husband and I walked by or drove by, and we saw this gorgeous house. And right now we're not looking to move, so I'm not going to worry about this, but I don't want to forget this beautiful exterior and kind of this is what we're looking for. So instead of just sticking it in the pile or filing it somewhere where I'm not going to see it, I put it in this incubation folder because I'll be reviewing this, maybe with my weekly review or maybe once a month. It doesn't matter because it's just incubating and it's waiting for me. That's what I start really liking about this system, is that your paperwork isn't controlling you anymore. It's just there waiting to serve you. So it just sits on your desk, and when you need it or when you want to access it, it's just right there. So you have your incubation folder, and then you have your Someday folder. Someday is my favorite because this is where I keep my dreams. There are so many things that I want to do, and there's so many things that you want to do and that you're capable of doing. You're perfectly capable. You're talented women. You're smart women. You can do anything. But because you're putting your family as a priority while they're young or while you have them here, you want to be able to focus on them, but you don't want to let go of your dreams. Because if you're thick in having preschoolers, you're not going to be maybe reading all the books that you want to read. But there's going to come a day those preschoolers are all going to go to school, or they're all going to graduate and leave home, and you're going to have lots of time to read, and you might think, well, what are all those books I thought I wanted to read someday? Well, you've got your Someday file, and this is where you're going to open it. And I check this probably twice a month, and I have lists in here of things I might want to do someday. Some of these things, in the full program, I have a whole list of possible things you could put on there. Things I want to study. I really want to dig more into U.S. history. I didn't love history in high school, and I want to learn more, so that's on my Someday list. I have tons of children's activities I want to do. We want to start this kids club in our neighborhood where every week we get together and we do a service project for someone in the neighborhood who needs help. That's really a fun Someday activity, but I can't do it today. But am I just going to forget about it? No, I've already outlined the whole thing. I've got a different activity already, and I'm ready to go. I've got the whole plan. It's not the right time. So, but I keep it here, and then I review it and think, oh, is it time for that kids club? Or if there's a neat gymnastics class that I think, oh, maybe someday we might want to do that. So I have all the information written down in here. I have my list of books. I have a list of projects I want to do someday. I have all sorts of lists that are just fun to look through because these are things that you've already decided you do want to do. If you can, you want to do it. Have you ever heard the phrase that says, every idea has its time? I love that phrase because that's right. The time is not now, but every idea has its time, and you just need a place for those ideas to wait for you. So Someday folder coupled with your incubation folder, and you've got it all set for your future opportunities. Okay, so now we're going to get the microphone ready, and I would love for you to ask some questions to help me clarify anything that wasn't completely clear. I want you to ask, we're going to get into how this is going to work, how we're going to process things from the inbox into this system. We're going to talk about the things that are coming at you and what we're going to do with them. So we'll go through all that. But as far as how to set up the system or the function of each item here, what are some questions that you have? Oh, right here? Okay, Julie.
Thanks.
Okay, your immediate next action items list that you keep with your on the brain calendar
Yes, okay.
versus your folder of important and in parentheses not immediate next action items.
Yes.
Tell me the difference because it seemed maybe a little redundant and I'm not
Okay.
sure what.
So this is something absolutely we want to make clear. Thank you so much for asking the question. Okay, so we've got our important next actions list and immediate, which are not the same items typically, okay? Immediate next actions need to be done within the week, and important next actions just maybe the next few months. Now what could happen is you could put something on an important next actions list, and as you're doing your weekly plan, something might graduate to your immediate list, thinking, okay, this has been important for a while, I'm going to make it immediate. The way that I use it is I just keep this here until I'm ready to check it off. For example, one of the contexts is computer work. So let's say I'm working on my computer work throughout the week, and I've got specified times when I'm doing this work, and I accomplish everything on this immediate list. It's been a very productive week, and I'm done. Then I would say, okay, well, I've still got Friday. I have all day Friday. I haven't done computer work, and my children are, in school that day, so I'm not giving up time with them. And I have more time to get computer work done. What computer work would I want to do? I would just go to my important next actions list and bring out my computer work paper where I have a bunch of different ideas listed that are going to help me move my projects forward that matter the most. So this is like step 2. Here's step 1 within context, here's step 2. You're making a bunch of phone calls, you've made all your phone calls, and then you think, oh, hey, I've still got another half an hour, I could do some more phone calls right now, you can go to this list. Or when this list is totally cleared off and checked off, and then you're making your list for the next week, you could use this as a resource of what you'd want to put on your immediate next actions list to kind of start you off, maybe a couple things. This gets filled up pretty quick. If you've got people calling you or asking you to do things or children needing you or new ideas come, this can get filled up pretty quick. And I try not to overschedule myself or give myself too much to put on here. Does that answer your question? Do you have the microphone's right there? Okay. There you go.
The phone call is not going on your calendar because you're checking that off and it's getting done.
Okay, so if it would go on my calendar if it had to be done that day. Like if the doctor said, call me Thursday and let me know how your child's doing from that medication. Then you'd write on your Thursday calendar, like I would come to my calendar and I'd go to my Thursday page and I would write down, call the doctor, because it has to be done Thursday. But if he says, hey, call me within the week and we'll set something up for an x-ray, then I would put it onto my immediate next actions list under phone calls to call the doctor because it doesn't have to be done that day. I don't want to stress about it on Thursday if it doesn't have to be done because then I'm going to call myself a failure if I didn't do it when I didn't even have to do it. Does that make sense? Okay, what other questions? Anything else that was not clear? You're feeling good? Are people getting excited? Okay, we have one more question. Great.
Tell me again what you look at in your weekly. Just point it out really quickly.
Okay, so these folders that we talked about, the folders, okay. So every week, we're going to process our main inbox, and I'll talk about how to process that. And then we're going to be looking through our current projects, so our list of things that, multi-step tasks that need to get done in the next few months, maybe paint the bathroom or get the oil changed if you're trying to, find a new place to do it, and this is multi-stepped. Getting the oil changed would just be an errand if it was something that you could just do in one step. But a friend of mine said, every time I get in my car, I look at this big crack in the windshield and it bothers me every day. But it's just another thing I need to do. So she put on her current projects list and then she can decide what's the first thing to do, the next thing. Okay. So once you have your current projects, then you have your next actions list. These are the important next actions that kind of help you figure out, I've got a current project, now where do I go from here? These are the next actions associated with these current projects that are going to help me move forward within those contexts. And then we have our routines and responsibilities. That's where you have all their housework, regular stuff you do, monthly newsletter you send out or something like that. And then we have our waiting folder, stuff you're waiting for somebody else to follow up on or help you to do. And then your goal review or personal lists. So you're just going to go through all these, figure it out, and we'll talk more about the basic steps to weekly review. I've got that in your packet for you. So we'll talk about when you sit down for a weekly review, here's exactly what you're going to do. You can have it step by step and go through this, and pretty soon it becomes automatic. It's like riding a bike. where at first it's going to feel a little bit wobbly and it's going to be a little bit hard and you're thinking, wait, I've got to keep track of all this stuff. But pretty soon it's just like you sit down and you might even skip several of these because you know you don't need anything in them that week. And then it's just like a quick, let me just figure out where I am. Let me get my bearings. Then I'll be good. Okay, any other questions? Yeah. Great, thank you.
So if you don't have an office space or
Okay.
a personal space, how can you do this system but like not, how does it not get out of control or not get all over the house if you have like no
That's a
real
great
space?
point.
Like mostly I have a laptop and then I have like my pile, but then
Yeah.
I don't have an office in my house.
Okay, I didn't have an office for a long time, and so I had this card table. We just got this for, a few dollars, and I put this up into my bedroom, in the corner of my bedroom. I moved aside a bookcase, and I just set this up, and I put all of these things right here and pulled up a little chair, and that became my office. You could put your bed on risers and stick your little boxes under your bed and have a little spot on the floor where you keep all these things. You could have in your kitchen kind of a section of your counter, and you could open the cupboards, and these file trays actually fit in a typical cupboard. So you could have them in your cupboard, maybe have a cubby system or something, and have one little spot in the kitchen that's yours. And my husband did a closet as his office when we were moving a lot, and so we set up these card tables are great, where there's so many little things you can do, and there's tons of ways you can make it work. So you don't have to have a full office, but you need to have a space that's yours, and seriously, you can do it within this little table. That's all I had for a long time. Okay, so are we good with how to build it? You at least know what you need to build. Let's talk about what you're going to buy as far as what you need. We know what we need here. I want you to skip down to page 11. This is really a small list. These are all the things that you're going to need to purchase. So you've got your calendar, paper, file folders, a labeler if you'd like. You need some sort of a basket or container for read review things. You'd want an inbox file tray. You'd want little small file systems, which could either be just another tray like this, or it could be a file box. You'll have cubbies or more stackable trays, magazine holder like we have down here. You need a trash can because you're going to trash as much as you possibly can, and we'll talk about that. And then just desk supplies, rubber bands, paper clips, things like this. Now this really can be simple. There was one mom that I was talking to who actually decided to use a cereal box for her weekly review folders. So she covered it in scrapbook paper, and then she just stuck all her little things and made a little pretty box. So you guys can do it however you want, but you can make it really inexpensive, or you could make it really nice. You can do whatever you want, but you just need a space and then some time to work on it. Okay, we have a question over here.
For your calendar, you have your own personal calendar you carry with you all the time. Do you also have a family calendar, like a big calendar,
Yeah,
so
that's
your
a good question.
husband and your kids know what's going on as well?
That's a really good question. We have one calendar. Our children come and look at my calendar. This is kind of the one I carry together. If you did have a family that was very active and moving around, you'd want to have a family synchronized calendar session, maybe Monday evenings or something like that, where you'd all sit together and calendar together. There's a problem when you have like a big wall calendar that's a family. If it's a routines calendar, like we have tennis every Tuesday, we have piano every Friday, that's one thing. But if it's like, oh, there's a big event we all have to be at, then if you have it on a wall calendar, you just have to be sure everything's going to match your personal calendar because it's what's with you. Because let's say you're out with a friend and she says, hey, can you guys all come over on Saturday for barbecue? And you say, yeah, I'd love to. And then you get home and your wall calendar is saying, no, I can't. You don't always want to have to say, well, let me go home and check my calendar, because then you can never make commitments where you are. You're always having to go home and check your calendar, which if that's what works best for you and you want to do that, you definitely could. You just have to keep a piece of paper with you and write down to call so-and-so, or on your immediate next actions list, it'd be a phone call, verify this appointment or accept this or that kind of thing. Does that make sense? Okay. Sorry, we're all being a little more quiet than usual. You guys are great. Okay, any other questions? Just how to build it. Next, we're going to go into how to make it work. You guys ready to learn how to make it work? Okay. So we're going to go back to page 10. And I've spelled out step-by-step instructions. It's just a basic checklist. This is how you're going to go from where you are today with your head swirling and panic and ideas or whatever's going on to feeling totally peaceful and calm and happy. This is like your 10-step checklist, so easy. Okay, step number 1 is you're carving out some time to just build your system. So you need to decide what's going to work for you. I took a week and we ate cereal for dinner every night, and I put my children to bed right on time, and I planned and I gathered up all my stuff and we just organized for a week. That worked for me. They typically say for a professional who has a job, they're in an office where they can go and sit in quiet and peace and quiet, they'd maybe spend 2 full days. I think as a mother, if you get 2 full days to yourself, you come to a retreat. And then you go home and you take whatever time you have to plan and organize. So however you can work that out, it would be great. Just need some time. And you need a space that's yours, which we spoke about. Second is you're going to keep these lists handy. You want to have the summary, the diagram, the checklist just handy with you. So if you're watching online, then you're going to want to print it out and just have it with you so you can check things off and use it as a tool to help you out. Okay, number 3, you're going to purchase all the necessary items. We just went through that whole list. You're going to purchase them or gather them from around the house or whatever it's going to take to get your materials ready in a way that works for you. There are so many fun ways to file. I've seen moms put this together with the hanging files, the ones they open up a beautiful armoire and they've got hanging files inside, or they've got really neat trays that stick it over to the wall. I mean, there's so many fun ways you can do this. You can make it beautiful, you can buy cute file folders, you can make it colorful, whatever you want, but you want to make it fun for you. So you think, this is my spot and I enjoy using this and enjoy organizing. Okay, once you've collected and purchased your items, then you're going to make this list, your inboxes. If you haven't done that already, identifying all the places that you need to check every week. And you're going to want to consolidate as much as possible. Like I tell my children, when you get home from school, everything goes on the left side of the counter, right here, in a pile next to this. And then I do an initial sort. Trash as much as I can. If there's something that needs to go on my calendar right then, if something has to be called about right that minute, the stuff that really we don't need, we trash, that kind of thing. But you need to have a list of your inboxes. Where is all the work coming to you? And then minimize that as much as possible. And then you build your machine. You've gone shopping or you've collected everything. You're just going to start labeling your file folders, making your lists, making your tickler with the monthly files, figuring out what you want your cubbies to be, whatever it is, but you're going to make this pretty much, however it's going to work for you. And if you want to do a lot of it electronically, that's great. It's totally fine. If you want to scan things and keep them all electronically, or just keep most of it, not using all this paper, it's totally fine. But you're going to build your machine just exactly what we walked through. Here's my calendar, here's my list, this is how it's going to work for me. Then it's time to start making all of this happen. So first you're going to collect everything. Now this is done in 2 ways. First, you're going to collect everything from your physical environment, okay? So you're going to have things like papers that are in your pile. You're going to grab things out of the children's backpacks that are at the bottom. You're going to go to the fridge and take everything off the fridge. Go into your car and get all the little scraps of paper and notes you've stuck in the glove compartment. You're going to open your purse and find all the little phone numbers and business cards and things that you've stuck, right? Am I getting all these places? You're going to go physically get everything. Now, I helped a woman organize her office a couple months ago, and we had 3 laundry baskets full of papers. She had just piles of mail and things she hadn't opened and all this stuff. So we brought 3 big baskets into the room and we sorted every single piece of paper in those baskets. But that was the physical. The next, what you're going to do is called your mind sweep. You're going to get out some pieces of paper. David Allen suggests you have 1 idea per piece of paper, and you're going to empty out your mind. You're going to say, okay, here's what I want to accomplish. This is what I want to do with the house. So I've got a trigger list in the program so you can go through it. Here's activities I want to do. Here's a business I want to start. Here's a vacation I want to take. Here's the book I want to read. Here's all the things that I'm thinking about. When you come to a conference or you go home with how many ideas you have, like hundreds of new ideas you want to implement right now, and you can't, so it's okay. You're going to dump them all and put them into your inbox or into your big laundry baskets or whatever. You're going to get all of it out of your brain, every little idea, every routine, every goal. And as you're doing it, you're going to feel a little sick. I'll just tell you that right now, okay? This is the sick part where you feel almost ill because you realize how much you have going on in your head, and you're going to want to quit. That's the point where you have to make the decision. Do I want to move forward and organize this, or am I willing to live in the chaos that I'm in? That is the hardest part right there, because you're just going to start getting tense and you're going to think, I can't do it, I can't do it. And just have to get through that and get over that, because once you sweep and once you get it out, we have a question over here if we can hand it. Once you can get everything out, you're going to feel so much better, and then we're going to start organizing it. But you've got to get it out in order to organize. Yes.
It's more of a comment.
Yeah.
It would be great to do this with a buddy. So, it's that
Yeah,
way you're
support.
both support. You're not in there by yourself doing this, but if you can grab one of your friends that wants to organize too, both heads together, you can accomplish a lot. So
It is
I
so
suggest that
true.
too.
And just getting together with my friend as we were working on it together, she kept thinking, oh, you must think I'm terrible. You must think I'm terrible. And I'm like, no, you are normal. You are busy. You're an involved mom. You're coaching soccer. You're doing all sorts of things. You just can't process everything all at once. And so when you do have a friend with you, at least maybe somebody who's even doing it at the same time, you can call each other and say, how's it going? How's your list? But I've heard from many mothers that just doing this mind sweep, that's just calming to know everything's out. Everything's out of your head and everything's gathered in your physical environment. So that was our step number 6, just collect it all together. David Allen has a 5-step process for getting things done. And we have collect, process, organize, review, and do. So that was collect. We're collecting all of it. And these are all written here on your chart. Okay, next one is we're going to process and organize. I put these two together because it's really not that complicated, but these are the questions. I've got 7 questions here. I think I had 7, 8 questions here, that's right, that you're going to be going through for each item. Now, these questions, you can pretty much ask them within 30 seconds. It's going to get fast. But initially, it might seem a little bit tedious. Just don't worry. You got to just get through this little part. Okay, so these are our questions. Number 1, is an action required? If yes, then you're going to go on to step 2. If not, there's 3 places you put it. Within this system, there's the trash, which you want to trash as much as you can. And when you get all those piles together, probably a third of it to half of it's going to be trash, stuff you really don't need, and which is a nice feeling. So you get rid of the trash. Second is a filing cabinet. Filing cabinet items do not involve any action items. So you've said no actions required, I'm going to file this. Or you put it here in your someday or incubation. Like incubation file, mainly no actions required because you haven't even said a yes to it. You're still not deciding. So incubation, filing cabinet, or the trash are the 3 places they go if there's no action. Did you have a question?
Why are they not in the filing cabinet? 'Cause you're not.
Okay, incubation is not in a filing cabinet because this is something I still need to be reviewing. I haven't decided on it yet. So I'm going to be looking at this maybe every week, maybe once a month, or every so often. If I file it, it's just going away because I'm never going to open my filing cabinet unless I'm going for a specific purpose. Like, oh, I needed that warranty, or I need that birth certificate. But the things here are like, hey, there's a new musical going on this month. Do you want to go to it? Oh, I don't know. So you put it, no actions required, so you just put it here in your incubation folder. But you want to review it. Because aren't there so many things that people invite you to do something, and you're like, yeah, I'd love to. Well, maybe, I don't know. And then you just stick it on your counter, and it's just sitting there. But instead, you say, well, let me incubate that idea. And what's fun is this starts creating a lingo you guys can use with your friends, where they'll give you something, and you're like, I'm going to incubate that for a while. Or how about I'll put that on my next actions list? And it's just kind of fun when you can start helping each other be organized, and they know exactly where you're putting it and what's happening. So if no actions required, incubation, file, or trash. Okay, if there is an action required, you've got to move on. Is there a deadline? If there is a deadline, you're going to put it right here on your calendar. You're going to get your calendar out right then. Now, there's something that's called the 2-minute or less rule. If, as you're going through these things in your inbox, if it's only going to take 2 minutes or less, you just do it right then. Okay? You're not going to write it down and think about it and wait. If it's a 2-minute job, you just do it. And that rule itself has helped so many people because it helped me, where I would write over and over and over again. Like, I could do this faster than I could just think about it. So you're just going to do it. So, but you ask yourself, as you're looking at this list, is there a deadline? Or as you're looking at this item, is there a deadline? So you'll write the deadline on your calendar, and then you're going to, or if there's no deadline, you're just going to move on. Next question for number 3 is this a multi-step task or a single-step task? We're going to practice, so we'll kind of get to know what those are. If it's a multi-step task, then you're going to come over here to your weekly review pile, not pile, we won't use that word, our file tray, and we're going to go to our current projects folder, and we're going to write down that item on our current projects list, either for me, my family, or beyond. So that's if it's multi-step. If it's a single task, then it's going to go maybe on a someday list, or something like that. If it's just a just maybe one thing, or a multi-step task could also go on a someday list. Okay, what's the next action? That's our question number 4. What's the very next visible physical activity that can move this project toward closure? This is if it's a single step, then you could just put this on my next actions list, like, oh, I just need to get the oil changed. That's easy. But let's say, what's a project? What's something that you guys would want to work on? Like multi-step. What's something you have to do right now that's going to take more than one step? Yes?
Creating a family history wall.
Okay, she's creating a family history wall. So she's going to have a wall that's going to have maybe photos or documents or something beautiful so her children can know about their heritage. That's a beautiful idea. Okay, so she's going to get that done. You can't put that on your calendar. Like, today I'm going to create the wall. Because how do you create a wall? You don't just, right? So what's the very next action? I mean, thinking about it, what's the next thing that you need to do?
Well, I got to find pictures.
Okay, so find the pictures. Let's say that's the simple way to start, right? I'm not going to think about the whole wall. I won't think about the huge thing right now. I'll just find the pictures. So is that something that you would be doing at home, or is that an errand? That's an errand. So she'd go to her errands list. If she wants to get it done right now, it'd be immediate. If she wants to get it done at some point in the next few months, that would be important. And you write on your errands list, go to grandma's house and get these photos. Is that pretty easy? So that's your next action, and you're going to put that on your list. Okay. The next question is, shall I do this, delegate it, or defer it? We know our next action is to run the errand. You think, well, I can do it, or I can give it to someone else. Maybe my sister-in-law might want to go do that because she's also putting together a wall, and we might want to use the same photos, or maybe she's doing a book or something like that. So you could delegate that to a friend or a family member, and then you would be able to take that off your plate. Or you could say, I'm going to defer it. I'll put that on my calendar later, or I'll have it on a someday list, or I'll have it on my important next actions, but I won't do it right now. So at that point, once you've identified the next action, you decide where you're going to write it. Is it immediate? Is it important? Is it delegated? What is it? And you record that. And then your next question is, do I have any supplementary materials that go with it? Like, do you have, for this family history wall, do you have maybe some stories that go with it or something? Okay. So she would go and get a file folder, and she would label it my family history wall. And she'd put in that file folder all the papers or stories or anything she has that relate to that. And then she would have a cubby that had something to do with my family. She might have a whole family journal cubby that has kids' journals, family history, journal experiences with the children, or things like that. So you'd put any supplementary materials in here. And then our next question is, when will I review this? These final 2 questions are just for your own brain. When am I going to review this? And you have to ask yourself that, because that's what helps you get it off your brain. You think, okay, I just wrote it on my current projects list, so I'm going to review it once a week. I'm going to review this during my weekly review. I will see it. Or I just put it on my calendar. I'm going to review it when I'm looking at my calendar. I usually look a week ahead at my calendar, so I'll see it that week before. Or I'll see it that morning when I open my calendar. Or if it's on my immediate next actions list, I'm going to review it during the day when I'm in that context. So you're telling yourself, don't worry, you're telling your brain, you're reminding your brain, you don't need to keep track of it because it's here, it's waiting for me. And that's just a great question to be able to ask and answer. And then your final question is, when am I going to do this? And make sure you have a clear understanding of when it's going to happen. Okay, it's a phone call. I'm going to do it during the week when I'm sitting down to do phone calls. We usually do them around this time of the morning or whatever. So really, those are all your questions you'll ask. And we're going to go through these as we practice. And then step number 8 is, once you've gone through your mind sweep and your physical sweep of your home and all the different inboxes, now you're going to do the exact same thing with your email inbox. You're going to go through and clear out your emails. What I did is I took out all the important ones, and then I had about 2,000 left. So I put all those into a file just called to sort, and it's probably more to delete. And I really don't need all of those, but I'll just kind of keep them there because I can search, different emails. You can have search functions, so I want to keep them, but I'm not going to worry about them. So I just got them out of my inbox. So seriously, every day, my email inbox is empty. I can just keep it empty, and then I can just check my immediate actions to find out who I need to respond to. Makes it really simple. And then once you've done your email inbox, you just have to make 2 commitments to yourself. You're committing, 1, to check your calendar and your inboxes daily. That this is something you're going to do. You're going to always look at your calendar. Your immediate next actions don't necessarily have deadlines, or they'll be on your calendar. So you don't have to stress too much. You want to be looking at them during the week, but you're not really worried about them. But you're committing to check your calendar every day and your inboxes. You're going to check your voicemail, your texts, your emails. You're going to just check them and make sure that you're keeping up with what's coming in. And then your final commitment is you're going to commit to and schedule your regular weekly review. And we'll talk about the steps to a weekly review. So we're going to go through some actual things. Yes, we have a question right here.
Okay, so let's say I have a current project. And in my head, I have, okay, this is the first action, then I can think of, okay, there's like 20 other steps.
Perfect.
Do I only write down the next action, even if in my head I know what the other actions are?
Okay, that's a great question. I would want to get those out of my head. Would you want to get them out of your head? Okay.
Right.
So we can just hold on to that if you want to pass it around. Okay, great question. So let's say you've got on your current project list that you're going to, let's go back to her family history wall. So probably if you're sitting down to think about it, you're going to organize how this whole thing is going to happen start to finish. What I would do is get out a piece of paper where you organize the whole project, and I would keep it in my current project support material. So then when you're checking your current projects and saying, okay, family history wall is on this list, and I've already accomplished the next action, now what's next? You can just go and find that paper and figure out what you want to do. You might want to do 2 of them that week or whatever. Okay? Any other questions? Just like what's popping up first? Okay, we have one over here. I'll just hand her the microphone. Thank you.
This is just logistical, but I'll give you an idea. We're
Yeah.
painting our exterior of our house.
Okay.
I haven't done anything about it yet. It's something I want to start doing.
Okay.
The DirecTV man scratched the back of the house, and so they're going to be
Oh.
paying for that.
Okay.
So I have some paperwork. So do I put that in my things to do at home in important next actions,
Okay.
or is that already a current project? Just
That's a great idea.
your feedback on that.
Okay. So you just hold on to that. Maybe just turn it. I think just turn it. Okay. So the people who came over to install the satellite, scratch the back of the house, they're going to pay for that because they're a good company. They want to make sure that everything's taken care of. And so she needs to know even where to start. Is it feeling a little stressful just even knowing where to start? It's just in your mind, and it doesn't really matter, but every time you see it, you're like, oh, my house is all scratched, and someone's willing to pay for it. So why am I looking at a scratch house? Okay, great idea. What I would do first, let's go through these 7 questions, or 8 questions. This is actually the reason why I wanted to put these questions together, because it starts becoming natural, but at first you really need to ask yourself, okay, so yeah, actually, well, I'm just going to interview you. So keep it turned on, and we're going to go through it. All right, you on that page? It's on page 10.
Okay.
Do you need help turning? All right, we're going to ask our first question. Is an action required? Well, yes, of course an action is required because you need to get your house painted. All right, second, is there a deadline?
Yes.
There is a deadline. Okay, when's the deadline for it? When do you want to have it done? Or is there
My personal deadline.
Okay, your personal deadline.
Yeah.
That's fine. When is it?
Like by November.
By November. Okay. So what you would do is go to your calendar and you write a little trigger. It's not like it has to be done by November 1st
Right.
or something like that.
No.
But I would go to some time in November when you think I'd like to check on it, and I'd write on my calendar, is our house repainted yet? Or I'd write
Okay.
like, make sure paint job is at least has commenced, right? You could say something like that.
On the calendar.
It's on the calendar because it has a deadline. It's
Right.
your deadline. You're not going to sit and wait on this forever.
Okay.
That's great. Okay, so it's obviously a multi-step task, right? It can't be done in one step, so you'd say yes. So you're going to place that on the current projects list. So you're going to come over here, and you're going to get out your current projects list, and this would probably be for my family, right? I
Right.
mean, something for your family. Okay, you want your home to look nice for your family. So get out your for my family list, and then you're going to write, get the home exterior repainted. All right, let's go to the next question.
What is beyond exactly?
So beyond is something beyond your own personal life and your family. It's things like paid work, volunteer work, something
this
that's
wouldn't be on
outside.
that. This
So
wouldn't
I
fall
probably
under that.
wouldn't put it on beyond. I mean, you could. You can put it wherever it makes sense to you.
Okay,
but,
I just wondered what
that's
beyond.
typically what I
Okay.
do. Yeah, good question. Okay, so now we need to know what's the next action. Thinking about this project, what is the next physical, visible activity you would do?
Get 3 bids.
Okay, so you want to get 3 bids for the job to make sure it's a fair price and that kind of thing. Okay, so to get 3 bids, that's still kind of a big job because you have to do multi-steps, at least 3 phone calls. Do you know how you're going to find the bids? Do you have a list of possible painters
I
yet?
do.
Okay, so you already have the list of possible painters. Do you just need to call them? Is it just a matter of phone calls?
Phone calls
Okay,
and-
so do you want to get it done this week? Like, is it immediate? You just want to get it done, or is it important?
It's important.
It's important. Okay. So you know what your next action is. You're going to come over here to your next actions list. your important next actions, and these are phone calls you're going to make. So you're going to open up your list to your phone call sheet, and you're going to, I'll find my cute little orange phone. You're going to write down on this orange sheet, call the painters to get a bid for my house. Then once you write it on the sheet, you need to think of the next question. Let's look at that. Shall I do this, delegate it, or defer it? Actually, we're asking ourselves that question before we write it down. You decide you're going to do it because you can't really delegate that to somebody else, and okay. But you're going to do it at a different time. So you're going to write it down on your next actions list. Okay. Next question is: do I have any papers or materials that are going to help me accomplish this? You do, because you have a list of all the phone numbers. So you're going to come over here to your current project support materials, and you're going to have a folder. You might have like a home maintenance cubby or something for your family.
Okay.
And you're going to pull out that folder, and in the folder you're going to put the list of the 3 companies, and you'll have it sitting in there, and you might reference it on your next actions list. Call the painters, list is in my cubbies, or whatever. Okay, then the next question is, when will I review this? You're going to be looking at this list every week when you're looking at projects.
So these folders just have the list. The paperwork is in the
Just list.
cubbies.
All the paperwork is in the cubbies, and these folders are just simple lists. You can
Okay.
you can scan
getting
them
it
in
off
a
your
second.
mind.
Off your mind.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that feel good?
Mhm.
So now you know the calendar is going to remind you. When are you going to review it? You're going to see it on your calendar in November if you haven't done it, but you're going to review the project and the task every week when you're looking through it. And you're going to do it when you're able to make phone calls that are important
Right.
at a time when it works for you.
So it's a current project, but I have my tasks and my next actions.
Yes.
And then the paperwork is there.
How does that feel?
Better. Can you come to my
I
house?
know.
And
Doesn't it feel good? I mean, you know, like when
Yeah.
the kids are little and they like practice writing and they're not getting it, and then they write and they go, and they start laughing because like they see that they just did it. It's going to be like that. You guys are going to start getting it, and then it's like you feel giddy. It's seriously, it's incredible. So, okay, that's kind of how we're starting. Okay, we've got a comment over here. I'll take her Are we good? Okay. You guys are asking great questions. I love it. Keep it coming.
Along with that, Julie, you said that the cable company or whatever. Along with that, the cable company came and they scratched up your thing. But did they give you a piece of paper saying that yes, we're going to pay for this?
Okay.
So that piece of paper needs to go into your waiting folder, doesn't it?
Well, if
Or no?
that's if you can't move forward on it, but if she still has to call and get bids, then
Okay.
that's just a resource. So it would go
All right.
in your same folder with the list. But
Okay.
good question. Yeah, that's very good. Now, if they said, sure, we'll pay for it, but we've got to check with management first, and we'll get back to you, then you put it in your waiting folder because you can't get bids, and you're not going to get bids until you can find out who's paying or that kind of thing. Okay, great. Okay. Do you guys have more stuff we can practice? Yeah, we've got one over here. Can we hand it over here? So it's great. And I've got some samples, too, of things I can go through of just stuff that's in my inbox, and I'll show you where I put it. Yeah.
I just want to clarify something. Your
Yeah.
inbox is collecting different things that you're going to go through during your weekly review and
Yes.
put them in the right spot. The current projects is lists,
Yes.
nothing else.
Nothing
no support
else.
materials.
Just your list. yeah.
Important next action as well list. A list
Just a
without
list.
support materials.
Yes.
Routines and responsibilities.
Just a list.
Okay. The
All of these are
waiting
just
folder.
paper. That's a
I'm-
list. Okay, that's good. Now that you guys are kind of seeing how it works. Remember we talked about where's our waiting folder? Talked about in the waiting folder, you have a list of things you're waiting for, but sometimes we talked about how the actual item could be the reminder. So that's where I had this here. Now, if you don't want the actual item, if you're waiting for seriously 10,000 things or whatever, and you've got this packed folder and you don't like to do it, then you could, file this, or you could, put it in one of these in one of these cubbies, if you just wanted this to be a list. So typically, the things I'm waiting for, if it's just if there's a piece of paper, like if the TV company says in a written form, here's a letter that says we're willing to pay for it, you could just write that down and file that in your support cubbies, or you could just stick the paper in here and not have to write it down. Because when you check this each week, if there's 2 papers, you can just check it quick and you don't have to write it. So it's to facilitate it and make it as easy for you as possible. I think what happens sometimes is we get to be perfectionists as women. And so, for example, sometimes like in my next actions folder, I had this little idea where I sat down and I was feeling frustrated because I've let my computer files kind of get out of control. I've been downloading a bunch of pictures and doing a bunch of blog posts and putting stuff up online, and I've got way too much on my desktop of my computer. So I just wrote down a couple little reminders of next actions that are really bothering me. And I didn't take time to put them over into these lists yet. I'll do it later, but I just kind of stuck it in the folder. Like, okay, I'll deal with this during my weekly review and I'll kind of get my head around it. But it's just, you can put things in your folders that don't necessarily match on a perfect list or reflect things. I've also had the question asked, does every single current project have a next action? Like, have you decided them? Now, current projects are current because typically that means you're working on them right now. So they should pretty much have a next actions list or next action associated. But let's say you're having a really bad week or you just don't even want to think about all your current projects that week. It's not a big deal. They don't have deadlines. So if only 2 of them have associated next actions right then, that's fine. It's totally up to you. It's just it's off the brain enough that you don't need to be stressed and be thinking about it. It's just there for you if you're going to need it or when you're ready, then you can do it. Is that good? Okay, yes.
Okay, so this weekend, we've learned so much good stuff. And so I'm saying in my brain, there's so many things now I want to become, I want to do, I want to be for my children, for me as a mother. So my list is like ridiculously huge. So, because this happened the last retreat, that's why I'm asking.
Yes.
I wasn't quite sure what to do with it. Some of that should go on my current project list. Some of it shouldn't. How do you decide what goes on the current project list and what goes on the someday list? Because I want to do it all, and I want to do it all right now, but I can't.
Great idea.
So,
okay, great answer. Typically, what I would do in that case is you're going to have a notebook, and you can have several sheets of paper or whatever full of your notes that you need to take some time to review. And you need to decide where it's going to go. For me, that's a project. That's multi-step tasks. I have to look through. I've got to make decisions. I need to talk to my husband about what he wants to do. And there's a lot of stuff involved with that. It's not just like you're going to implement all these notes all of a sudden. And that's why most people go to a conference and they get tons of business cards of their associates. They get tons of ideas. They get tons of resources. And then they get home and they decide, forget it. I just can't do any of it. And what happens too is after some sort of a retreat or a gathering, you get home and you're all excited, and then the children have missed you and they're kind of being whiny or they're frustrated, and then you just had this post-conference letdown, feeling like, everyone needs me. I can't be this great mom. You've heard I'd be a great wife and mother if I had no husband and children. Have you heard that? So seriously, it's hard. It's much easier to look the part than it is to actually do it. So what I would do is I would say, this is a current project to implement what I learned at the retreat, or just organize what I learned at the retreat. So I would come over here to my current projects list, and for me, I would write down, review and extract what I need from my retreat notes. Okay, that's a project. My next action might be, go through the notes and take out, maybe spend 20 minutes. Next action could be something that's bite-sized and doable. You can't just say, figure out what's in my notes. It can't be something big. But you can say, my next action is maybe this week while it's fresh in my mind, when I have time alone sitting at my desk, so it can be under at home or at the computer, wherever you'd want to put it on your immediate next actions list. I'm going to take this list and I'm going to write under home. Go through my notebook and take out, spend 20 minutes taking out the things that really resonated with me, the very top ideas that I want to implement. So that's my first 20 minutes. Then I'm going to take my notes and I'm going to create a folder called Power of Moms Retreat, put it all in there, and it's there as a resource for me. This is what I'm going to do. Then when the time comes that I go through and I'm spending my 20 minutes, I'm going to know exactly where my notes are because I've got a folder, and you can reference it if you need to, see cubbies or whatever. I'm going to say, okay, I'm at home right now. I've got time. I'm going to do this. I'm going to check this one off today. I get out my list and I go through. And a lot of them, let's say there's 20 things that you really want to do. And maybe 3 of them are current projects. Maybe 3 of them are errands because I'm going to go buy this book and I'm going to get this and I'm going to get this. Maybe 3 of them are computer items. Oh, I decided I'm going to do that. Maybe one's an at-home item. I decide I'm going to collect milk caps for my son because he loves them so much and that's his love language, so I'm going to apply that. So I'm going to write down what I'm going to do in that context, and I'm going to kind of put it where it belongs. I'm going to spend 20 minutes putting things where they belong. Now, if I didn't finish that project, then what do? I'm done with my 20 minutes. It's still on my current projects list, so if I want to wait a week, I'm going to see it again, and I can establish my next action then. Or you could just establish your next action right away. As you're checking off your first next action, you say, now what's the next thing? I just took 20 minutes. Maybe the next thing is I'll spend 20 more minutes and I'll finish. Or maybe the next thing is, I'm going to actually organize my current projects a little bit better, and I'm going to create folders for them. Or maybe on my errands list, I'm going to go buy all the stuff I need for Mind Organization for Moms, or what it's going to be. So you just decide what's my next action. But if you just check it off and don't think of it again, it's fine because it's on your current projects list, and you'll be looking at that next week. Okay? Is that clear? Okay, what else? Yes, we got one right here.
Big project or a goal, like for me, it's I have so many pictures from when I was a kid, and I don't really enjoy scrapbooking, but one of my goals is to get them into photo albums.
At least into an album. Great
Just,
idea.
but I have boxes in my closet. I have some in our shed out back, so I'm all over
Okay.
the place. I can't go and put all the
Not gonna
pictures
go in
there.
here. Good.
So where do I just put it on the list and then have a box with the pictures?
I would have it
or-
somewhere. Exactly.
do?
Like what you could do is just, that's a current project, right? I mean, let's go through our questions. I want us to kind of practice going through this list because really we'll start to understand it. Okay, so you're going to write down as part of your mind sweep, I need to get all these photos into albums. It was in your inbox written down. You brought it out and said, okay, process this. All right, is there a deadline? Can you get the microphone back? I want to interview her a little bit. Can she hold that? Is that turned on? Okay, so is there a deadline?
Well, I should probably put a deadline because I've been wanting to do it for years, right?
Okay, so like when the children graduate or something. When's your deadline? Like, what do you
Next
think?
year.
Next year. Okay, so you would go to your calendar. Usually for mine, I keep 12 months, but then afterwards they'll have a little planning calendar where you can extend for the next 3 years or 4 years or something like that. So you'd write for next year, how are the scrapbooks coming along? I write it like a little question to myself because I can't say scrapbooks as a deadline or whatever. You could just say that. Family photo albums. You could put that in there. But that's your trigger. Okay, so for your deadline, you're going to write your trigger. Then is it multi-step or single step?
Multi.
Multi-step. What's the next action? Like what's the very first thing you would need to do?
Probably to find all the photo albums I've bought over the years that
Okay.
don't have photos in them.
Very good.
Or
Well, that's good.
go buy some photo albums.
Okay, so first thing you need to do is you're going to look around your house and see what you have because you don't want to buy something that you already have, right? So that's your first thing. Now, is that immediate or let's keep going. Okay, are you going to do it, delegate it, or defer it? Like, are you doing it right now? Is it 2 minutes or less?
No.
It's not 2 minutes or less. Can you delegate it to someone else?
No.
No. Can you defer it?
Yes.
Yes, you can defer it. Is it immediate next action or important next action?
Important.
Important next action. Okay, so you come to your important next actions list. It's something you would be doing at home, right?
Right.
Get your important next actions list, and you're going to write, find the photo albums that I've already purchased. Okay, that's an easy thing to do, right? I mean, scrapbooking my whole life is not an easy thing to do. Finding photo albums that I already bought, that's doable. So when you're at home, okay, we'll talk more about that in a second. Okay, so you've written on your list. Now, do you have any papers or materials that are associated with this yet? You've got all your pictures and things like that. If it doesn't fit in this box, you just need to find where it is going to fit and then reference that on your next actions list. So I would say, for example, or on your current projects list too. You could do them both. But I would probably say my current projects list, like get all the photos put together. Photos are in the box in my closet if you're going to forget. We had several Christmas cards that were friends that updated their addresses and things, and we needed to get those changed. And we had a whole bunch just in this bag, and we needed to go and put those addresses into the computer and kind of update it for the next year. And so I can't fit all those Christmas cards into these cubbies. So I have, some shelves in my office, and we just put them on the shelf. And then under our current projects list, where it says get the addresses for Christmas cards, it says see shelves. So you just have a little reference where it's going to be. Okay, so then that's exactly what you would do. You would just write down. You don't have any other papers. You just have your photos that you have referenced. When will you review it? So when are you going to see this? Weekly. Every week you're looking through your list. And as you're looking through it, you might think, oh, I could do this right now. That's not a big deal. Or maybe you're done that night and the kids are playing around the room and this closet might be holding some of those photo albums and you think, hey, I'll just look through it. It's on my list. And then you just come check it off. So you will be reviewing it and you're going to be doing it when it's convenient, when you're at home and when there's stuff to do. And what's so fun is as you write it down and you have things identified, once you identify that next action, it's amazing how it just starts happening. How all of a sudden, when you're in the right context, you think, oh yeah, I'm also calling this person. I have that on my next actions list. And you just start doing it because it's been identified. Where these big projects of, I need to put photos here. I need to make this big thing. I have to repaint the house. These big projects are what's weighing you down, and worrying about them is not getting you anywhere. But how many times have you been with your child and they're like, hey mom, look at this cool toy, and you're thinking in your head like, I need paper towels, oh, we have ants everywhere, there's a birthday party. Like, your brain is not enjoying your children because it's thinking about, where's the photo album, or where's this, right? You're thinking about all these things and it just drives you nuts. And you don't even realize that's what's making you mad. But that's what's making you mad, is not being able to figure out where these things are. Okay, so that was a great question. Okay, next. Who else has something that's stressing them out? I can go through some of mine. I'll show you. Okay, so if I come over here and look at a typical inbox, this is actually some things that were in my inbox. Oh, here's that camera manual I was telling you about. I just had it sitting, I kept keeping it in my planner thinking I was going to read it while I'm out and about, but I have a 3-year-old. What was I thinking? I'm not out reading things while we're hanging out. So I am going to put this into my read review basket. So this is great. And I kind of like having my office with me. I feel really comfortable with all of it around me. I know, I'm like getting stuff done while I'm here on vacation. It's great. Okay, next thing I have is a birthday card. It was for my 3-year-old. His cute aunt always remembers his birthday. She's darling. And I haven't even opened it yet. Like, his birthday was Sunday and I forgot to give it to him. So this is something I'm thinking, oh, I got to give that to him. But so what I will do is I'm going to stick this actually in my planner because I want to give it to him right when we get home. But once he opens it, you're like, well, now what do I do with it? Right? You get all these cute cards or something. You're like, oh, I want to say thank you, or I want to do something. So once I open it and I show him and he's happy, I'm just going to put it, well, this is why it would be my inbox again, right? And then I would process that once it's been opened. So then when I come to get it and I say, okay, I've got this card, I want to save it for him, I have in my filing cabinet, we actually have a box for each child. I'll show you this one right here. My daughter labeled them for us. We have Ethan, so this is my 3rd son, or my 3rd child. It's ages 6 through 10. Each child gets a box. So we have up to 6, which will include kindergarten, and then we have a 6 through 10 box. And that's all they get to keep. So anything that doesn't fit in the box, we photograph. So Spencer, my little 3-year-old, he has a box. So I'm going to go, when I'm processing my inbox in my office, I'm going to go put this little card in his box, but then I still want to call his aunt and thank her. So I'm going to go to my immediate next actions list, because I don't have to call her today, and it's fine, but I want to call her soon because she just sent it. I want to acknowledge we got it. So I'll go to my phone calls list and I'll write, call Aunt Tara and tell her thank you, or just call Aunt Tara, and put in parentheses like birthday card or something like that. So then I'm done with it. Okay, we have a question. Where's the microphone? Perfect. There.
Okay, so in this box that you have, because you didn't really discuss
file
that,
box, okay.
do you just throw it in, or do you have files in there for like each year it's filed like really detailed?
To be perfectly honest, we just throw it in.
Okay.
That's how we do it. Now,
just
yeah,
curious.
thanks for bringing that up. So I brought this file box to represent filing cabinet, right? The stuff that you would file. We do files in a lot of ways in our house. I have a filing cabinet for all my business stuff and things that are just my personal stuff. Then we have a series of 4 to 8 boxes, depending on the age of the child. So each child has 1 to 2 boxes. I have 4 children. So they're labeled, they're in my office, and when they get to the end of the school year, they bring home all their papers. I say, which ones do you really want to keep? And we take a bunch of pictures, and we put them in the box. And I let my kids just put stuff in the box. I don't scrapbook at all. I just don't like it. So we put everything in the box, and then my children, at least twice a year, they say, hey, Mom, can I look through my box? And so I bring it out, and I just say, yeah. And they open it up, and they look at all their cute certificates and their things, and they just love going through their boxes, and they think it's great. And some papers get totally ruined because they've looked at them so many times, but you know what? I don't care. I think it's more fun for them to get to have fun with them than for me to keep every certificate pristine and perfect and filed and say, don't mess up my order. I don't want to be stressed about that. So that's how we do it. Some people might not want to do it that way, but that's what's worked for us. Another idea we have for filing is I actually have an incubation folder for my children's schoolwork, which I call it my sneaky sorter. This is kind of a right when they get home from school and they hand me all the stuff. When I throw away what I think should be tossed, I get yelled at by my children because they want me to keep everything. So in my laundry room, I have 2 big baskets, and it's my incubation sorter. And the bottom basket is stuff that I'm 95% sure I'm going to keep, and the top basket is stuff I'm 95% sure I'm going to throw away. So my child will hand me a picture and I assess. I don't tell him this, but I assess in my mind, do I like this or do I want to keep it? And then I put it in the box of my choice. And then when they say, hey, Mom, do you have that picture I made? I'm like, yeah, I saved it. It's right here. And I pull it out and I've got it. And then they forget about it and then I toss most of it. So I know that's probably, I take pictures of a lot, but until they get older, my older ones are great at throwing stuff away, but the young ones, they don't understand that you can't keep every single picture. They're so cute, and I hate throwing it away, but I can't keep the mountains of stuff. And I think that's all right. I think what we'll do now is I think we've kind of got a handle on how it works for the most part. Anyone who's watching this and just trying to learn about it, the full system's online where people can go through it and get all the information that they would need. But for the most part, you kind of see the overall picture of how it's going to work. And it's going to take some practice. We'll do a little more Q&A here. But I just want to finish off by just talking about our steps to our weekly review, just going over that really quickly. This is our final page in here. I wanted to call this, like ways to keep up with all of it so you'll never feel sick to your stomach again. That's kind of the key. Is this program works. Mind organization works, but it only works if you work with it and if you do it. And a weekly review is just what you're going to want to accomplish every week so that you never have to feel stressed out again. And I've been doing this for a long time now, and I can honestly say I don't feel stressed out. Stress will come in other ways. I'll be stressed about a problem with a child, or stressed about a decision I have to make, or where I'm not perfectly stress-free, but I'm not stressed about the stuff that doesn't matter, which is just like book orders and papers and tasks and things that should not be taking my attention. My attention wants to be on my family and on my relationships and on my goals and building my life to be of service and do a good job helping other people. And so when you keep up with a weekly review, you're basically saying to yourself, I want to be the person that I know I can be every week, and I'm not going to give up on it. So every week what you do is you fill your inbox, we talked about. Then you're just going to go through these lists. You're going to go through your current projects and say, are all of them represented on that list? Is there anything maybe in this someday folder that I could graduate over to my current projects list? Maybe is there a dream I've been thinking about, and now's the right time? I mean, we've talked a little bit this weekend. Some of us will say, I just got through the 2s. I think I can start doing a little more of this right now. Or your life's going to change. All of a sudden, some of these someday items might want to go onto your current projects list. So you're going to look through that. You're going to really identify your next actions. Think about all the things you want done and identify what's the next thing. I can't do a big project, but I can do a step. So you identify those. Really looking at those routines and responsibilities. What is it that I'm already committed to doing every day, every week, every month? How is my life going? Am I stressed out because there's too much? I'm just really looking at that. Reviewing your waiting list. Is there someone I need to check up with? I put that on my immediate next actions list to call so-and-so about this event. Or if it takes 2 minutes or less, send a quick email. Check up on something that someone said that they would do for you. And then really spending a little bit of time looking at your goals, your goal list. Thinking, who do I want to be? What do I want my children to think about? A lot of the things you learn at a retreat like this would go on a goals list. I'm going to be more, in tune to what my family needs. I'm going to really think more positively about myself. I'm not going to put myself down all the time. I'm not going to go and waste time. And just little goals, things that you want to think about. Then you're going to be looking through all your email folders. Check the ones that are immediate next actions or important next actions. Maybe look and see if there's emails you're waiting for, things like that. Figure out what it is that you need to do to make your emails get under control. And then finally, you're just going to look through all your off-the-brain ideas or resources for new ideas. I love to look through here and look at my little, my project folders and think, oh yeah, I had that whole book idea I'd outlined. Let's think about that some more. Or, I've been studying this section, a history book, and I really love that. Or, oh, I saw this great website, and that would be fun. And letting your mind just be courageous and just taking time to be brave every week when you sit down and think. Have you ever heard the idea that you should do something scary every day? Do something that scares you? That's a good thing. And a lot of times we want to stay in our comfort zone. But when your mind is clear, when you've got all this taken care of and your lists are organized, and you've got 2 things on your calendar and you're done with it, can you imagine how you would feel that day? Knowing if you did nothing else that whole day, it's fine because everything's taken care of and nothing's going to blow up. That's just a neat feeling. And when you can do that and look and think, now I can be bold, now I can think of writing a book, or maybe you could become a Power of Moms trainer and go out and do these training sessions. Maybe you could start a learning circle. We host learning circles on our website. get together with other moms every week and have discussions and form this great group. We can go have fun and learn how to be better and just encourage each other. That would be great. We could play our Bloom game where you get to develop and set goals. And there's all these fun things that you can do. And what usually happens is we're so overwhelmed that we just start shutting out any new ideas. Or someone says, hey, how about this? And you're just like, no, just don't even fill my mind. I can't do anything else. And you're going to start finding that people will trust you more. You're going to start feeling like you're going to have a higher concept of yourself because you'll realize, you know what, I do what I say I'm going to do. I follow through. I don't turn my library books in late. I mean, I still do sometimes. But you're going to start feeling like, wow, I'm really on top of things. And people can trust me. And I'm getting a lot done. And wow, I've got a lot on my list, but you know what? I'm doing them. And the stuff I'm not doing, no big deal. Doesn't matter. Kids matter. My husband matters. My family matters. And these are the things that you're going to get from it. And so I challenge you to really take the time to implement the system. It might take a week, take a few days. It might take a while to really get everything out of your head and to get into a routine. But when you can just take the time to organize your mind, that is an investment in your family. And I know that this system, this getting things done system, has worked for millions of people, and now we're getting ready to help it work for the moms. So thank you very much for coming. Just want to clap.